Hey everybody, good evening. How are you all?
Good evening, good evening. I hope everyone is in fine fettle. Tonight we have another wonderful show. We have a wonderful solicitor.
Yes.
But this woman has done so much. I still question her age.
Exactly, right? But we hope that you're having a good week so far. It's been a really nice day today. So
yeah, sun shining all of a sudden. We got sunshine.
There, right? So, you know what I mean? Let's make the most of it. Hopefully we'll start making everybody feel a little bit better and just energize us all to have a great week ahead. Yeah? All right? Okay.
Okay, so without further ado, we're going to introduce to you Dr. Jennifer Obaseki, who is the director of Obaseki Solicitors. And we're going to be talking to her about her journey, where she's from, what are the things that we need to link together. We had a brief conversation the other day, and I think out of that came so many revelations that we have to think about as a collective.
Yeah.
So without further ado, you can introduce.
Come on in, Jennifer. Dr. Jennifer Obaseki, how are you, darling?
I'm fine, thank you. Good evening. Good evening. Both of you. Lovely dynamic. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, bless you.
It's an absolute pleasure. You know, we got in touch a little while ago, possibly about a year or so ago, and it was about time that we actually got in touch with you and sort of get this thing going, because you've done so much, and it's astonishing that you don't, as I said to you before, you don't look 40. Right, so it's like, what the hell, right?
It's lovely. She looks absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. I take that as a big compliment. I'm well understood. Those people that know me from Tottenham, from the ends, know exactly how old I am.
Okay.
Pay them off and say shh.
Yeah, nothing more to be said. Now, can we ask you about you? Because one of the things was, there's so much you've done, but before you do all of that, who are you? Where are you from? What's your education? That kind of background that people can get to understand.
Well, I'm just Jenny from the block. I'm Jenny from, well, I was born in East London. I grew up in Tottenham and attended schools in Tottenham. But my secondary school, I started off going to school in Enfield.
Okay.
My mum worked in Enfield, so she wanted me to go to school up there. But I got into what was then called Holy Family School for Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And about my, I think, second or third year, I started to sort of hang out with those who were down the bus stop.
Rebellious.
Went the rebellious route.
Rather than going to school, they were going to West End. So I went a bit rebellious, and the school kind of wanted to suspend me at one stage, and my mum was like, no, why is she the only one being suspended? And rather than let them tarnish my academic record, my mum gave me a choice, and the choice was go to boarding school or go to Nigeria. And I'd been to Nigeria, and I knew that, you know, we come from an average family. I'd have a driver, I'd have quite a good, you know, let me say, domestic help, and I was having it large in my head, you know, princess lifestyle. But also wanted to we had a very strong family and family culture. I'm originally from Nigeria, so it was important to me to connect with that side. So I went to school in Nigeria, within the state of Lagos. I went to a place called Government College Ikorodu. Little did I know that the school they were going to send me to was in the sticks.
Hello.
So this little girl is thinking,
So it was good. You know why it was good? Because even though it was in the sticks, you had German students, you had Asian students there whose parents had businesses in the town. But we also had a very passionate set of teachers. And there's a very big difference to children when you go to school when you're in the majority and they're teaching you your own history, teaching you your own values, you have a very strong sense of self. And I do believe that a lot of the Afro-Caribbean students here in the UK don't evolve with that when they're studying, and that does make a difference. And for me, it's very empowering. I kind of came back to the UK when it was time to do my A-levels. I thought I got into university in Nigeria. I wanted to see if I could get into university here in the UK. I didn't get into in Nigeria. The competition to study law is actually very fierce. So in Nigeria, I got into study sociology, and I actually didn't have any passion for it. So I came to the UK, went to College of North East London. Yeah.
No, well.
Once I came back, to be honest with you, I was too busy enjoying myself, hitting the clubs, you know, being a bit more rebellious after all the hard studying. Because in West Africa, I actually really aced my O-levels. I got my O-levels by the time I was 14. And then I did my higher secondary school set when I was 15, 16. So I came back to the UK, started doing A-levels, and first times around, I actually flunked. I flunked so bad, I can't even tell you how bad those grades were. So I then went to do an intensive course at Southgate College, where I did 4 A-levels. On the quiet, I just kept on the down low for a year. I really wanted to prove to people who were saying, oh, look at her, she just, you know, all she does is love to party. And I aced my A-levels, but I hadn't applied to university. So I was like, wow, now I've got the study bug. I wanna really ace, you know. And somebody came to do a presentation at Southgate College from Middlesex, and I applied directly, and I got admission to do law and economics. And from there, straight admission into the University of Law when I finished. And I finished from the University of Law. But the good thing was, before I'd finished my legal practice course, I'd already started working in different law practices all over North London. I started working in Green Lanes, Haringey, then I moved to Finsbury Park, and I moved then on to West London, to Shepherd's Bush area. So I'd amassed a really strong client following before I'd finished the practice course.
All right. So in terms of the client, you already, you say you amassed a strong client base.
Yeah.
Which propelled you to consider something else.
It compelled me to think about opening my own practice, because when I was in the West London firm where I trained, unfortunately, I discovered that not all is well and good. You know, I discovered that the Caucasian employees were being paid like this, and the Asian ones were being paid like this, and the black and employees were being paid like that. And that was you know, a member of staff revealed that to me out of guilty conscience, because they could see how much passion I had for it. And it really deflated me. But though it hurt, what it did do was it compelled me to promise myself that as soon as I was able to work for myself, I would, because it was just, it really broke, it almost broke me. It almost broke me.
Because you kind of always got that hope, haven't you, that, you know, you're on the same level playing field.
You think, you know,
hard, you're not thinking, and you're young, and you know, when somebody hits you with that, it is very difficult to take, you know.
It's a bitter pill to swallow. It was a bitter pill to swallow. I must say, it was out of all the places I'd worked, it was the best place where I'd got training. I was allowed to really take charge of my caseload. But what I just didn't realize was, you know, the discrimination. And, you know, when discrimination hits you that boldly, it can either break you or it can empower you. And though I was actually so hurt by it all, I couldn't actually amass to bring my own case against them. Every time I thought about it, I would break down. Every time I write a statement, it hit me that hard. But the promise I made to myself was, you're not going to work for nobody. And sort of was hit me to my core. So as soon as I was able to open my own practice, I did. And by that time, the good thing was I'd amassed the client following. People knew me by that time for human rights. People knew me for immigration. People knew me for family law, property, and employment. Because at the College of
You
Law,
covered all of that yourself?
sorry?
You covered all of that yourself?
Yeah, because the first practice I worked in was family and property. The second one I worked in was a general practice that did housing, immigration, and also family and crime. So I was doing those areas for 2 years before I'd even qualified. So it was just really good. And the people I trained under in the second practice, I mean, some of them own, well, one of them owns one of the biggest firms in the country today, but I trained under him for 2 years. And he would really let me do a lot of the statements, court attendances. So I was doing those things before even being qualified, which meant it was, for me, it was just like bread and butter work. It was very easy. Yeah. So I'm thankful for that, because not everybody has that. And that's why anybody who has come to my practice for work experience will tell you I'm full on. If you come in and you say you want to learn, you're going to get tired of learning if you come into my place, because it's fully rounded. You're not going to, you're not going to come and photocopy if you're coming to do an internship with me. You're going to learn all of your basics. And I'm proud to say that we've trained so many brilliant solicitors. The weird thing is, last week we had somebody in year 10 come in for 2 weeks work experience. And what she said to me was her sister had started crying and saying, that lady, I did work experience with her 7 years ago. And she's now studying law. The weird thing was she was placed with me as an emergency placement by one of the student organizations, because where she had gone to, she was made to feel uncomfortable. So they asked me if I'd take an extra person on, even though I had students, and I said yes. But the fact that she's now gone on to study law is a testament to me. It makes me immensely proud when I see where some of our interns are today. I'm extremely proud. Secretly, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. I'm trying to make sure that the judiciary gets darker. You know what I mean?
I hear that. I hear that. Well done to you. Absolutely.
And well done. And I'm sure you will get there. I'm just going to say to everybody, welcome, good evening. If you're just joining us this evening, we're here with Dr. Jenny Obaseki, the director of Obaseki Solicitors. We're finding out about the splendid work that she does. You know what I mean? How she got into doing, being in the legal system and practicing law. But do share this. Let people know about we're here. You know what I mean? And we're here speaking with Dr. Jenny today. And you can watch us on YouTube as well. A lot of people say to us, well, we can't get to watch. But you can now.
Well, the thing is, if you are a member of the group, you will be in a private group, but you can tell your friends and family to join us on the Black Business Recommendation YouTube channel.
On our YouTube page.
So it'll be live, playing simultaneously. Okay. That being said, back to you. Now, your law firm at the present moment, what do you deal with, and what is your staffing like? How many people do you employ?
Right now, I think we're 17. I have a number of consultants, but we also have lawyers in Nigeria and Hong Kong. Okay. Also in the London office, we have quality marks. So we have an excellent mark for the standard of our practice, but we also have quality marks in the areas of business, property, and family. So that's recognized by the Law Society as having expertise. We also have a number of trainees. At the moment, I have 2 that have just finished, and then I have another 2 in place. And then I have a number of paralegals that are legal support staff that help progress casework. There's another 2 directors that are both solicitors. And we also have other lawyers the ones that are the consultants, they're also lawyers, and they specialize in the area of commercial, family, and one of them has taken a sabbatical and is lecturing in Congo. So as I said, I'm really, really proud, because though I started the practice in 2005, I started the practice with just myself and my mum. My mum died a year ago, well, on the 23rd from COVID. So
oh, God rest her soul.
yeah, rest her soul. She was my receptionist for 2 years.
Oh, so Mummy really did help you.
Control things, day one.
She was at the center.
You know, I started the practice with an overdraft of £5,000 and basically took on a really big property in Hackney. Those people that will remember where it was. And I mean, I'm talking over 17,000 square foot over 2 floors. And within months, I was as busy as, you know, it could be.
Yeah.
It got so busy that I had to move into the basement so that I could manage the caseload and stay late without having to go home.
Yeah.
But you know, thank God I've had an amazing set of people come in and work with me. And I'm so proud of them. I'm proud of the firm's achievements. We have reported cases, which means that we have cases that are referred to from the Supreme Court as decisions. We also have references in Hansard where the MPs have referred to cases of mine. These include cases against the Republic of China for human rights abuses. This includes a case reference that was discussed for victims of domestic violence. And we also try to contribute to roundtables. And when we talk about roundtables, so this is MPs and government's discussions on the area of gender-based violence, immigration. And currently, I'm really passionate about equality. We've seen from the decisions on Child Q, where we see the very flagrant breaches of human rights and abuse of power. And it's one of the reasons why I specialize in human rights. It's because where the government or a local authority or an organization needs to be held to account, it's not easy for members of the community to access legal aid. As a result, they don't always seek justice. You can see that with this particular case of Child Q, sorry to go back to it, this incident 2 years ago. 2 years
exactly. That's what shocked me.
We are hearing about it now is because the end of a long review has shown that she was justified in making her complaint and she was treated unreasonably. Many people don't even get to the review stage. Many people are so disheartened, upset, and adversely affected that they complain and then they just leave it. It's if you know your rights, that you'll know that actually you've breached my human rights or you failed to carry out your duty or obligation towards me. And this should amount to me having a level of compensation, not just an apology, but also a level of compensation to correct and help support the damage that you've caused. Apart from that, you know, you've got issues with regards to police abuse of power. We've all known about the stop and search. As I said, I'm from Tottenham, where I've been arrested twice. You know, you know, so you sit down and think about abuse of police power and things that, well, for my generation that we've witnessed growing up, and we know we can't allow the next generation to go through those things. We know that it's imperative that they know their rights, and I feel sorry for this government because these millennials ain't playing.
No, they're not messing about. They want to know their rights, and you know what I mean. But can I ask you a question though? Can I ask you a question though, Jennifer? In that kind of a case, as you said, it's taken so long for that case to surface. Now you may find that there are some parents. What would you say to somebody that said, you know what, I think I'm being wronged?
What's the process?
What would you say to that person now?
The first thing to do is you mustn't be reactionary. Yes, immediately you must outline what you think is wrong. But the one thing that people like to get away with is an apology or refusing to be held to account. So the first thing is finding out what people's policy is. The local authority have their own schools, but if your child's in a school that's independent, they might subscribe to a different set of rules. And before you know it, you might be complaining to the local authority, whereas you should be complaining to a school board. And so the first thing to find out is, what rules is this organization operating under? Once you've established that, you have to try and outline what obligations to you or to your child have they breached? There are rules that are given in law by statute. So those are statutory those are statutory rules and regulations which any organization that's operating on must adhere to. But when it comes down to organizational policies, how they operate, you then have to think about how they've breached those operating policies in how they've handled you or treated you.
Right.
If you can outline a legal breach as well as an operational breach, then you can easily outline to them what they've done wrong. Because we often don't formulate those arguments accurately because we're so upset at the time, usually. Or we need guidance in formulating those arguments at the time. So once you're able to do that, and one of the phrases I love to teach people is wrong and unreasonable. Even if you can't formulate your argument at the time, so far as you feel it's wrong, it usually is wrong. So if you're a letter, outline that I feel the way you've treated me is wrong and unreasonable. Wrong will be a breach of policy or law, and unreasonable will be obviously that it was done unfairly. So that one line in letters, you can usually couch most of your feelings in that sentence and say, I will seek I reserve my right to bring further argument. So that way you've lodged your complaint. The other thing is always think about key dates and deadlines. Sometimes people don't realize there's a deadline to bring certain things. For example, in this child cues case, when you're bringing a civil claim against somebody, if there's a level of injury, you've got a 3-year deadline. They've taken 2 years to do an inquiry. She's got a year to bring a claim. And if her claim is over a certain amount, there's costs involved. So the other thing you have to think about is how can I get support to bring my claim or case? Can I access legal aid? If I can't access legal aid, do I have a level of insurance that can cover my legal representation costs? And if not, is there an organization out there that can help me? Look for support. It's very difficult to do any kind of challenge when you're emotionally affected.
Thank you for that. You see, guys, we keep saying to you, have your notepad and pen, because this is valuable information. But for those of you that do know this, then that's great. But,
share it.
Share that knowledge. You know what I mean. But for those that did not know that, then there you go. Dr. Jen has shared.
This is the kind of thing that why I chased you up to actually have this interview, because I know that you have specialisms that not many people do have. I mean, a lot of the solicitors that we know within our locality, they touch on the subject. And then you find out that there comes a point in which they give up because they can't go any further, or they have no interest in,
or it's not financially viable for them. For me, people know us in the community. We've taken on, like the case that went to the Supreme Court. I saw the merit in it, and so that person didn't pay, but I won the case. If I see the merit in a case, then I will ask the client to sign a fee agreement with me. But we are fortunate to offer legal aid in family law. So that's law where the local authority seeks to remove a child, or if you're the victim of a domestic violence incident, you can apply for funding, or housing where you're deemed not eligible for housing, or you might have a level of disrepair. But legal aid gets cut, in many areas it's limited. But for me, when it comes down to immigration challenges above the IAT level 2, so that's to the Court of Appeal or to the upper tribunal and onwards, I tend to, if I feel of merit, I come to an agreement with the client. When it comes down to civil claims, the way the court system works now is everything is about money. So you've got to think about when you're home. If you're in a family situation, you've got to think about what happens if we have a legal problem. There are insurance policies out there, but you've got to really think about the way you save and manage money in case of emergencies, including legal emergencies if you can't get a legal policy. It's really, really important.
Wow. That is, now that is one of the things that we have to. Sorry, just forgot the plug.
We don't have nothing to cut off.
We don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
So one of the areas that we have to look at is how do we ensure that, as a collective, as a people, that we actually have the right type of people like yourself, that we it's not necessarily on speed dial, but the times when we want to get in touch with the right people, we can actually access your information.
You know, thanks for the question. There's two things I'll say, and I ask the community to listen attentively. Most people go to lawyers because they have a problem. Yeah. I have my clients that they're, you know, into business and they come to us because of our commercial expertise. That's brilliant. They've got contracts or they want to expand on their business. They want me to do their contracts. That's fine. But the other side, the social welfare side, come because they normally have a problem. And when you have a problem, you're vulnerable. And some unscrupulous lawyers take advantage of vulnerable people. And I'll tell you that as a fact, okay? So you first got to make sure that the person you're going to is qualified. You've got to make sure they're qualified in the area you're going to them in. I know that I have got a lot of expertise. That's because I've got more than 20 years experience, okay? But the lawyer you go to, you want to make sure that they have at least 3 to 5 years specialism in your area. You want to make sure they're insured. A lot of people meet legal advisors in church or in cafes. No, you should be meeting them in their office. You should make sure that they belong to a professional body, and you have to make sure they're insured. What if they lose your file, mess up your case, get sick? What happens? Then you have to make sure that you check them out. You can go onto Trustpilot, Google, see the ratings, see what people say. You can also check them out against the Law Society register. If they're a qualified lawyer in this country, they'll have a roll number. Okay. You know, and the other important thing is if you're part of an organization, a church, a mosque, I don't know, a temple, try to make sure that you have a welfare lead and probably a legal advisor or affiliate with a law firm or a legal advice body. So that could be even a citizens advice bureau. Have qualified people give your vulnerable, desperate people advice, not just guessing, not just Google. Actually go to have a referral mechanism within your organization or your, you know, your charity or your community. That way you're making sure that they're being signposted and referred to the right person, not just a man or a woman that you've heard does this, that, vetted. Otherwise, you are equally maybe leading them down the wrong path, even though your intentions might be most proper and good. But we see in the community that things are not often done properly.
You're right.
In a rush to try and help. So when you're setting things up, find out, go to your local council, who can I refer people to? Go to the Law Society, who can we go to? Interview solicitors before you put them on your books. Have you dealt with these type of cases? We want to refer people to you. You know, what's the capacity? What's going to be the procedure? Not just doing things haphazardly. It's a formal business, so let everything be done formally and properly.
Okay.
So with that being said,
After that, I didn't know.
I think that one of the things is that in the community is watching right now will say, so what about the money? How do you negotiate? Yeah, because you know, you may start off with an idea, and then as the court case goes on and the price goes up, where do you have the opportunity to say, hey, freeze a minute, let me see how I can put myself together on this? So
it's really important when you first go to a solicitor, as I said, after making sure they're qualified, insured, they should give you a letter outlining your terms of engagement. That will set out the hourly rate, or if you've signed a fee agreement, it should outline what is going to be expended as that case progresses. So if you can't afford legal funding or the cost of a case, find out if you can get legal aid. If you can't get legal aid, check your insurance policies, check your home insurance, your bank, see whether there's a clause or a term that allows you to have a level of legal cover and what that level of legal cover entails. And if at the worst case you have to pay the solicitor, see if you can come to a fee agreement where the solicitor bills you up to fixed stages in the case as the case progresses. So if they can't take on the whole case, see if you can ask them to do the drafting, and see if you can go to them or to a direct access barrister to do the specific hearings. So, and again, if you start the case by outlining what are my chances of success. So anybody who takes on your case should be able to tell you, I think that you have a 70% chance of success or a 90% chance of success.
Right.
Let that be your guide. You might be, as I say, emotionally upset after being wronged or feel something is unfair. That doesn't necessarily mean you have an excellent case. So outlining the chances of success and what you will get at the end, or what is your resolution that you want? Is it compensation? Is it apology? Is it to move home? Is it to replace something? You've got to think about what it is you want. So the legal advice has to be sound from a person who is an expert in that field, give you your chances of success, outline whether you can afford the fee, if not, whether it can be stage billed or any other alternative that can cover your costs. And you've got to make that decision. You've got to make that decision whether you can afford to take on the litigation. Sometimes there's no choice in it. For example, if it's a case of, for example, immigration, and you want to appeal for your mother to come into the country for a wedding, or for one of your children to come and join you here in the UK, there's no compensation with that. That is a win or lose situation. If you've been refused the visa, you need to challenge it because you want that family member close to you. If they've breached your human rights, then you have to lay out your case. If you qualify for the visa and they said you didn't, you have to challenge it. There's no compensation for that. But if it's a situation where you've been wronged and you want to have compensation for that wrong, you have to outline what are your chances of success.
Right.
What quantum are you going to get from the compensation? If the quantum's going to be very small, but your legal costs are going to be very high, then, you know, a judge may fast stream your case and make a very summary, quite a summarized judgment, and you might be disappointed. You might come out with £3,000 in costs, £3,000 in compensation, not what you expected, but a large amount of legal costs as well. So you've always got to really look at balancing things out and knowing where you stand and what your realistic chances are of success.
Right. So in essence then, do not knee jerk. So if a situation arises, do not panic and just do your due diligence.
Yes.
And put the case forward and then make a decision as to whether or not, you know, what your win rate could possibly be and what the costs are. So okay, that's a really I suppose that's a different way of thinking, because I suppose for us, you know, it's always a difficult thing when you're talking about law, isn't it?
Law and solicitors.
Because as soon as you see that, you know, that issue coming towards you or that thing coming towards you, the first thing you are doing is panicking. You're thinking, how am I going to do this?
And then you bury your head in the sand until it becomes a red letter on your doorstep. And so
don't be an ostrich.
Yes.
I mean, in all honesty, we are at a stage where for instance, one of the things that I wanted to tackle was our parents who have property have just been dealing with the property, not knowing which way to go, get to a point in which they sell the property and not talk with their children to say, you can do something with that. And that becomes, I live with that. Really bad.
Legacy building in the Black community is one of our weakest areas. We all know that the Black pound leaves the community, if not on the first or the second spend. Whereas Asian pound, the Jewish pound stays and circulates amongst their own community, generating wealth. With property, you've got a very similar thing within the Black community. We are not often taught about legacy building and how to preserve for our next generation. With property, the sad thing is we've not really had a lot of specialist advisors in that arena. So there hasn't been the advice on how to ring fence money and assets. So number one, we have a family specialist in our practice, and I've always done wills and probate. So you've got to think as a family about having those conversations, those difficult ones. Because of our culture, we don't like to talk about death. We don't like to think about what's going to happen when I'm gone. You know, your parents are saying, why are you talking about me dying? Do you want me to die? What is all? If you don't, you're going to end up paying all of your lovely capital gains to Her Majesty. Her Majesty that's already got so much money, you'll end up giving her more. So
40% more, yeah.
think about building trusts, passing on property before death. 7 years before death, you pass on that property. There's no inheritance tax going to your children. So why not pass it on while you're alive? If you think they're gonna, fritter it away, ring fence it, put it in a trust. Outline the terms of that trust so that it cannot be sold or disseminated in any way. Apart from that, think about passing gifts. Again, putting down conditions to make sure that they cannot just be spent. But you've also got to think about yourself. People are living longer. People also want to have funerals where they're not buried here in the cool ground. They want to go bury in the sunshine. So you've got to think about
that's true.
who's going to cover that costs. So you've got to really have these discussions. If you're of the older generation, I would implore you to please not give more money to Her Majesty. She has enough. You want to keep that for your grandbaby.
Well, you know what? This is the month of April. We're looking at finances, but we're taking on board from the different perspective. Even that we've got a funeral director who's had enough experience of how to prepare funeral and whatever, so people know, right? Rather than try to generate some money when you pass away, and you're asking people to pay some money. We've got a funeral director who's able to help us with understanding the prices and the different aspects of funeral. We've got also someone who has built a company supporting Black businesses and our community in terms of legacy. Yeah, so estate planning. Yeah, so we've also got a solicitor.
You see how he's looking at you.
I'm telling you, I'm right here. It's just really sad when people pass, when you see their loved ones maybe bickering over things that are so unimportant, or when they delay, and then that delay now means that the estate is building up tax penalties. And if this is all sorted out before somebody passes, it means that there's going to be more to go around. It means you're going to bless more people. Write a will. If you haven't written a will, then anything can happen once you've gone. So setting out your intentions is imperative. So it's not a difficult conversation. It's actually a beautiful conversation, so that you let your loved ones know what your intentions are and what your desires are.
So what we're going to do on that is to ensure that we actually have the month of April, when different sections, where we bring everyone together to talk about it, their own specialisms, and then bring them as a collective, so people can learn from the conversations around the table being had.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we want to ensure that what we have is legacy building in our community, getting people to understand. Because we need to get our elders and their children together to understand, listen to the conversation. So that there's communication about this. So it's so important.
It's true. One question I would ask you, Dr. Jenny, is wills. You mentioned upon wills. Obviously, your practice does that. So that goes without saying. Now, here's the thing: you hear people talking about wills, and some say, "Well, it's easy to do. You can do it as cheap as whatever." And then you have some that say, well, it can cost the earth, because you have to change it every year, or you got to change every 6 months because something's happened, or you change your job. Myth busting here now. So myth bust that for me, please.
I'll myth bust that. Your will is, a very important document, but you do not have to change it often, especially if it's drafted well. You might have what's called a codicil. So an addition, an amendment. You might have an extra set of triplet grandbabies, I don't know, and you might need to cater for them because they're not mentioned. But if your will has been drafted correctly from the get-go, if it words out my grandchildren, then it will outline that any grandchildren born named or unnamed in that section will be, catered for. You have to make sure you go to the right person for it to be drafted. But if your situation is complex, maybe you have a couple of baby mothers, baby fathers. You might have more than one wife. You might be a Muslim. You might have more than one wife, and you might have children in different places. So there might be the need for very specific drafting due to your, complex situation. Exactly. So you shouldn't be changing wills and having updates every 6 months. No, that's actually very wrong, because when you pass, it'll be a case of which one is the current one. But if your one will, and let people know that there's the one solicitor, or you've drafted it through one service and it's been kept under your pillow, under your mattress, in a safety deposit box. You let somebody close know where it is, and that is the current version. That's how it needs to be done, not in a disorganized, haphazard fashion.
Okay.
How long does it take? How long does it take on average to make a will? In that case,
it can be done very fast if you know who your beneficiaries, who you want them to be, and if you know that there's no need for executors, it's not that much of an estate you'll have, or it's large, and you know who you want to name as those who will help you divide and distribute your estate. Then you name them, you get their consent, or you might not want to let them know that you've named them as executors. And sort of outline what you have, because the sad thing is we're a very global community, and us in the diaspora, we forget there might be assets in Jamaica, there might be assets in Africa, and the children here, as much as you think they're not interested, or uncle so and so will make sure they get it, that uncle or auntie may make sure they don't get it.
Or may pass away before they pass it on.
Exactly. So, and then the children that you think might not be interested in that might suddenly have an epiphany and think, actually, I want to touch base with my roots. I want to develop something there. So outline your assets. The one thing that becomes very difficult is asset tracing. And that eats up a lot of any lawyer's time. Probate. Because you're able to quantify somebody's estate, you can then get your letters of administration. If you need to have them resealed abroad so that you can deal with assets overseas, you do that. But the last thing you want is debating over whether somebody owns something or didn't, or you're sending private investigators or somebody's arguing to say you passed the asset earlier, etc. So please do your wills. Don't do it for anybody else but yourself. Do it for yourself so that your own desires and intentions come to pass, and nobody takes advantage of the fact that you've not done that document. So please just
excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Listen, guys, you see, you're getting loads and loads of advice here, and I'm sure that if you do want to get in contact with Dr. Jenny, you can do, and we will share that information with you later. But I just wanted to touch quickly, because I know that you do employment law, and obviously we do have a lot of businesses, and I am sure that at some stage you have to come across that. So I don't know if you can share any kind of simple 2 or 3-step advice for business owners.
Number one, we're coming out of COVID. We're going to see some strange things happening within the economy going forward. We've heard about the energy crisis. Some people have bounce back loans that they're trying to pay back. Some have bounce back loans that they're not even having an intention of paying back, and they're folding their companies. So number one, from an employee's perspective, you saw last week, P&O just sacked 800 people like that.
Exactly.
Like that. And they took back loans. They took over 10 million. So there's going to be changes. There might be your employer might want to seek to change your employment contract, add additional duties, vary your hours. Obviously, any variation in your contract terms and conditions has to be discussed. You might be considered for redundancy. Check out what your firm's redundancy policy is. And you will always, or you should always, annually be asked to do an appraisal. If you're looking to secure your job, outline what you've been doing well, how you've contributed during the pandemic. During your appraisal, ask what the firm's intentions are. Outline what your aspirations are. Most of us get into jobs and get too comfortable. Our career desires dwindle. Whereas you should be really looking to improve yourself. Your employer is not going to look to improve you unless they see that value in you. They might just be happy with you coming in, clocking in at 9, clocking out at 5, and then coming back on the Monday, week in, week out. If you don't seek to improve yourself and look for what the firm can do training wise for you, you'll stay in that position and not climb anywhere. So make sure you look out for yourself, protect what you have in your role. If you're looking to do more, outline that during appraisals, and make sure that if there are any changes due to the firm's economic status, that you try to make sure it's done properly. So just make sure you try to do that every year for yourself, take your position. Then with employers, yes, economic times might be good for you. You might have done fantastic online and be, loving it large or living it large.
Yeah.
You know what? I need to recover. Number one, if your business is not online, you need to start thinking about your terms and policies and how you can try to automate and try to put as much as you can through digital processes. If you don't digitalize, you will die like the dinosaurs. Very simple. Very, very simple. There's software out there that can help you save money. There's processes out there that can help you if you have them automated. Get somebody in just to do a review with you, then start looking at apps that can help you. Secondly, if it is tough and you're having to make redundancies, if you're having to change hours, the sooner you negotiate or talk to your staff, the better. Don't do what Mr. Piano did and just sack people like that. Outline to them.
Terrible.
You can down and say to them, look, I'm struggling. I'm going to start having to make redundancies. This is a very regrettable decision, but I'm going to be using whatever policy you decide, whether it's last in, first out, whether it's looking towards those who are near retirement age and offering them early retirement. But try and talk to your staff members and set out a fair policy and enact it sooner rather than later. If you go month to month stretching yourself, then you're going to push yourself so much economically. Whereas if you decision sooner, then you give yourself a fighting chance. Then also, in regards to digitalization, get advice. Don't just start jumping things online. Think about what your legal obligations are. Think about where, if you're still tied out in certain contracts, if you cannot cut them sooner, go to them, tell them, look, we're struggling in paying this cost for this particular service. Can we have it reviewed? I know it's on an 18-month contract. Can it come down? Can we then also think about reducing the monthly fee? If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't ask, you don't get. And most accreditors will sit down and think, if you're struggling and you've come to me, let me try and also help you, give you a fighting chance. But if you say nothing, miss payments, you start putting yourself in bad credit, you start putting the pressure on yourself. But the last thing I'm going to say to people in that sphere is plan. You might sit down and say, well, she's chatting. I don't know anything about going online. I don't know this. I don't know that. Then plan. Think about what you can do and how you get there. Think about where you ideally want your business to be in 3 years' time and exactly where you would like it to be in 5 years' time. And just make your notes, sit down and plan. There are organizations out there that can try and help you, especially the ones that are now trying to do the digitalization, the advertising. There's grants that are out there that are trying to help businesses. So start with your local authority. Apart from that, come on to this, Black Business Recommendation and see there are organizations, there are other NGOs out there that have been tasked by the government to disseminate this information to those in the business community and outline what funding is available for them. So if you ask, you don't get. So that's what I'll really say to businesses that are out there.
Thank you very much. That is
amazing.
Comprehensive information. And you know what? I hope everyone will take their pens and listen, take them notes, and do as requested. Go out there and explore. Do your due diligence. Make sure you know what you need. I'm going to ask you a question about now,
we're coming back to
you're helping so many people. But the truth is, we need to know about you. And you are someone who has had many awards. And we'd like to know what kind of awards you've received over the years since you've been in business.
And your YouTube channel.
So
we're not letting you escape that way.
Not gonna escape.
You're going to talk about your business.
So over the years, it's been a blessing. I've had quite a few awards and recognitions, and they stem from, you know, gathering African Champion Awards, African Achievers Award, which I was very shocked with. You know, Desmond Tutu had one of those, and I was like, whoa, Jesse Jackson. And various awards for business, and those stem from, in short, there's 23 or more of them. You were asking me this the other day, and there's just so many. I have to do a very detailed list. Most of them come from community organization.
But it's recognition of your hard work.
Recognition. I know. I've had you know, I think it's the not wise women, but African Women's Award. There's a coming up again this year. I had that for business, and it's a nice thing, because when you see that recognition, it's kind of encouraging. I don't set out to support people in the community to get awards. I try to give my support to make a difference. If that difference is helping school kids from East London, North London, or disabled kids who thought that they had no chance of working in an office, come into an office, be supported, be encouraged to go into areas that they're passionate about, then I've done good. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I go home, sleep well, because I feel I've made a little bit of a difference, even if it's also trying to explain to a charity what they could do better to try and get funding, or if the charity during this COVID, like many, have lost so much money and have to shut down, but do so in the best way possible with the least adverse effect to staff and service users. Then again, if I've done that well, I've done good as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
With regards to legal changes, I'm always passionate about making sure that there is case law to support the most important thing of equality, and that's not just for women but for people of color. We have to make sure that cases like that are seen through to fruition. When I was talking to you earlier about cases and getting a result, some cases you do have to do because of setting a precedent. And if it's of outlining to the British government that they cannot treat people from other European countries that are of color less favorably than Caucasian Europeans, then I'm up for that kind of a fight. I'm right in. Do you know what I mean? And you always see me leading that kind of a fight, because the lawyer in me wants to make sure that that is set as a precedent, and that those coming behind do not have any adverse treatment. I feel that is my job. I win those kind of cases and go home and sleep very well, you know. They're hard, because when you are going up against you know, the giants of the world, it can be daunting when you go into arenas where the government's saying, oh well, we were justified in doing this because we felt that there was good reason to treat this person less favorably. You then have to really stand up firm and outline to judges that, look, as you know, that excuse does not hold any water. You know?
Absolutely.
And the reason why I sit down and really push for not just for people to become good lawyers, but to become members of the judiciary, is because unless the decision makers are people of color and of experience, like majority of the people of color have gone through, we're not going to have fair decision making. Once you have people of color, or people who understand what people of color go through making decisions, we're going to have fairer decisions. It's as simple as
it is.
So apart from being a lawyer, I encourage people within my practice to try and get onto round tables, try and consider entering into the judiciary. But it's a difficult thing. But anybody listening to this, there is a current drive for magistrates. You should really be thinking about that if you're in the community and you know that you want to make a difference. There is the obvious making a difference within, you know, your neighborhood, but there's also making a difference within the decision making, handing down of decisions within the judiciary, and that is something that I really passionately encourage people to do. I also encourage people in the community to please consider becoming foster parents. It is imperative that we have Black foster parents, Black social workers who can again help interpret for younger people who are going through situations that are being misjudged. It takes an understanding of how that child has grown up or what they might be going through to help that child transition into a better place. And
So we
because
need more advocates.
yeah, we need more advocates. We need more Black advocates. And you might think law's a bit too frumpy for you, but there's a place for you in the community to help make change. So please, please, if it lays on your heart to do so, find out what you can do. Find out how you can become someone who supports families who are going through court cases, just helping mothers, fathers who are facing judicial situations. You might not be able to advocate for them, but you might be able to just sit down and support them. Many of them just need you know, like a Mackenzie friend, somebody who's a layperson, just express their concerns with. Some people find it hard to articulate, and there is room for support workers even in that field. So please, if it's something you've ever considered and you want to understand more about it, hit me up. I will talk to you, refer you to where you can even get training for that kind of a thing, and you'll be much needed.
Well, you know what? That is
well
absolutely
said.
fantastic.
Well said. But you know what? I'm going to just say, Dr. Jenny, we obviously my chat thing is not working on here, but I can see some of the comments. And one of our members is saying that she needs to speak to an employment lawyer as she's been discriminated against.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
know, it's hard. I've currently got 2 cases, one from the Met, one from the NHS, and you sit down and think, my goodness, but sadly, a lot of the organizations just get it so wrong. And so just feel free to send an email into info@obasekisolicitors.com. Somebody will be in touch with you by tomorrow morning. And again, with discrimination, report as much as you can. There should be protection for whistleblowers. Try to keep a log of incidents. Try to make sure that you manage the formal complaints and grievance processes, and make sure that you get your complaints policies and your grievance policies so that you know exactly what you're doing. If they fail to follow those processes properly, you can go to ACAS before taking the legal battle, and ACAS often contacts the employer on your behalf, and if there's no resolution, we'll give you a certificate in which you can then go forward and lodge at the employment tribunal. But I'm very sorry that many of you go through discrimination at work. It is not acceptable. So make your records. And remember, those people that sit down and say, no, that's really wrong, I wouldn't stand for that, many of them don't come and be witnesses for you. So make sure you run your own records and reports.
Right. Yeah.
Taking up who was there during things being said. And don't forget, if an organization doesn't take action when you make a complaint, it means that they're encouraging a culture of discrimination. So not only will you go for them for the one individual incident or the one person, but you can then outline that the whole organization's policy encourages systemic discrimination, which is absolutely wrong.
Yeah. Oh my word.
Wow.
This has been a power session today. It's been amazing. But you know what? As I said, we will share the information with everybody. We have been putting up how people can contact you, and we will put it up again.
And what we'll do, we'll actually cut some of the conversation into little chunks so that we can share it in wider audiences, and we will give you a copy so that you have that.
Exactly.
But before we go any further, I've got to ask you a question.
Yes.
Your management style, because listening to you as someone employed by you, I would be happy because your passion is absolutely out there to be seen. How do you manage your team?
I have a policy. Anybody that comes into my practice, I ask you, what are your favorite 3 areas of law? What's going to be your main area? As anybody, I don't allow one income stream. You have to try and build up a second area in which you want to specialize. So I support you in your main area, you become an expert, but then it's also important to build you up to have a backup. For example, when the housing market crashed, I'd already predicted a lot of things and had my conveyancers trained up in employment. Now I can see that there's going to be pressure within the housing market because of people losing their jobs, etc.
Yeah.
We've also realized that we have a big market of overseas buyers. So I'm building them up to become specialists for purchases coming from overseas. I also see obviously the gap in the employment law. So my aim is to let them know what I feel is going to be the legal and economic trends, build experts in their one area, but try to encourage them to spread their wings a little bit. That's number one. Then secondly, we've from COVID, we've all seen that we have to give a level of flexibility with regards to working. It's important that the very core tasks are done and the very core bits with regards to reporting to management are done. Once I see you doing that and you're hitting your targets, then I'm up for it. Anybody that delivers according to target with me, it becomes a case of how do we reward you? Because when it comes down to delivery, you must reward those who deliver for you. Within my team, there are people that have been there for over 10 years. And that to me is everything. It's a case of how do I give back to this person? How do I let them know that we value them? So the other thing is to make sure you ensure that those who are working with you as a manager are valued. Otherwise, they'll step. It's as simple as that. If you don't value your team, especially during a period like this of COVID, they'll go wherever the highest bidder is. They'll feel no loyalty towards you. Okay. And the one thing is you want to make them feel comfortable. You want to let them know that, okay, if they're going through hard times, they have no issue with explaining what they're going through, any adversity they're going through. Because if a member of staff or a member of the team is going through something, challenges, if they don't share it, it's going to adversely affect their work. But if they know that they can share it, be supported, get through it, then they're all in. You know, they're more
attuned to the state of you, isn't it?
So my management style is strict insofar as you're hitting your targets, and then from there you're giving the permission to fly. It's as simple as that. Because once you fly, we all celebrate you, and it takes us higher, you know.
So do you actually look for like, would you be considering franchising what you do?
For me, within the legal business model, it's hard to do franchises. We've had people like quality solicitors, high street solicitors trying to come in. But what I've realized within legal practice, it's very much so different. People come to you because of what you can do. You know, people don't, it's not the same kind of model as McDonald's. No, people will come into Obaseki Solicitors because they know they're going to get a lawyer that's likely to understand where they're coming from. A lawyer that's an expert, because I take on people that have not just law degrees, I take on people that tend to have masters and upwards and are qualified in more than one jurisdiction. Okay. So lots of my lawyers, we've got lawyers that are qualified in Italy, Nigeria, have experience outside of the UK, as well as sound years of experience and practice in the UK. You can't get that anywhere else. Then at the same time, people come because they've heard about the good results. We win 97% of our cases. That's just an amazing statistic. We immigration. I would say that I don't think I've lost an immigration case this year. And so and even last year. So if I do, it means it's a case that is not winnable. Even the ones that are considered not winnable, I win them. So I'm proud of that.
Amen. I'll tell you what.
Result.
I'll let you finish. Yes, sorry.
It's really about results. And again, it's for me, clients tend to come by referral. So you can advertise, you can throw money at advertising, franchise, but if you can't deliver the goods, you're going to get a bad rep quicker than anything else. So it really is about the personal service. So would I think about franchising? No, but I will revisit that. I would like to have another practice in the middle of England, around Birmingham or Manchester.
Okay.
I would like to. Hey, I would like to have an office in the Bahamas. You know,
Hello. Hello.
come to the Caribbean anytime. But yeah, already with Hong Kong and Nigeria, trying to make sure that the expansion into the Asian market is good. I'd love to go to Dubai, but all these different places have their own rules and regulations with regards to setting up practices, and you've got to have like-minded people when you're working on that level, and it can be difficult. But at the moment, I've got a committed group, and I love, I love my team. They're so committed, and I'm proud of their achievement.
Yeah,
Very,
that's
very.
what we love to hear.
We love to hear that, because that is what makes our day. When you have a team and you know that you can rely on your team to carry through the projected direction that you want to go, then it sounds perfection.
Exactly.
So,
I know, don't get me wrong, it's not all a bed of roses. We've had our issues.
No, I know that.
We've had our challenges, you know. It's really important. Again, one of the things with employment law is you've got to make sure that you protect yourself. You've got to make sure you have the non-competition clauses, especially during times like this. You've got to secure your data. You've got to do all of that, because people will test you. People will test you.
Yes, absolutely.
Listen, guys,
it's been wonderful. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
She's been amazing. This is Dr. Jennifer Obaseki. Dr. Jennifer, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
You see, guys, we keep saying every week you've got to come with your notepad and pen. You never know what you're going to learn. For those, I'm sorry that we were not able. Well, I can't see your comments unless I look at my phone. But obviously, I've put Dr. Jenny's details up for you as to how to get in contact with her in regards to any kind of consultation or advice that you might need. So if anybody else has anything, do get in contact with Obaseki Solicitors, and I am sure they will get back to you and treat you right. Okay.
And if you mention Black business recommendation, I'm trying to push for those who I give this reference to. It's JO2022. You get 20% off your full.
Can you say that again?
JO2022. You get 20% off your legal fees, because this is my 20th year in practice.
Oh. Hey!
In that way. Okay.
Now,
I'm very proud. I also want to give back to people in that way. So please, if you ever feel the need or you think that, remember that, so you get a little bit of a discount on your legal costs.
And what was that? What was that discount?
It's just a code.
I'm writing it in for everyone. You see,
JO2022. You know, so do think about that. And if just as a note, if you're struggling during this time with regards to your property, ask for your payment holidays, especially like with your mortgages and things. Have a look out there with regards to your overheads. We've seen operators have their bills go up phenomenally, especially their electricity bills. You've got to shop around. Do be proactive in this time, but if you need help, the sooner you ask, the sooner you'll get help. Okay?
Absolutely. And I will definitely be calling you up for the panel, because there are so many things that we can discuss, because I want to let people know that, because we've actually got someone who's supporting everyone in their business, in their personal finance. Yeah. So we've got someone doing that. As it is legal aid, we're looking at helping people to get them to understand where they can go to get that kind of support, you know, and the estate management. So we're looking to all the estate planning. We're looking to open the door for people to actually see how they can save money. One of the other things that we did recently was to show people how to do a new type of partner that they can actually raise money to do and support themselves. So we're trying to do as much as we can to get people to understand finance is something that you can do with the right direction. So with that being said, you know, thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a
I
pleasure
appreciate
having
Absolute
you on.
pleasure.
Yeah, and guys, don't forget 20% off for BBR members. You quote reference JO22, okay? And I am sure that Dr. Jenny and her team will help you immensely. All right, but
Thank you.
it's been a pleasure, and you have a blessed week, and we look forward to seeing you again
Very soon. All right. Take care very
Thank
much.
you very much. Thank you. Take care. Well, guys, there you go. That was
Wow.
Dr. Jenny.
That was Dr. Jenny Obaseki. Now, this is somebody who, as you could see, has experience in her business, 20 years. And so what she's done for us is to give us 20% off from you actually getting her on board.
Exactly.
So please don't be shy. If you need her team support, her and her team support,
Yeah, some knowledge.
the number, that's the number there. Please use it. We'll see you next week, and we'll be talking about something related to.
He's still trying.
I'm still
He's
trying,
still
you know.
trying.
I'm trying to find someone to get this thing started out, you know. I want locks. I want locks.
Okay, guys. Listen, you have a
wonderful
week.
And we'll see you next Monday when we have who's our guest?
No, you can tell. You tell. No, you tell. You tell.
Oh, I've spoken to the
Care
young
by George.
I've spoken to the young man, so I know him as Jordan. So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But it's Care by George, and he is a young man who started his own business, hair care products for gentlemen.
I'm going to leave him to it next week. But no, definitely. Listen, guys, have a fantastic week ahead. We hope you enjoyed
tonight's guest.
Guest.
And just remember one thing. While we take things, seriously, we also share the joy of being in business, because you all know sometimes it's really hard. But end of the day, you're doing it because you love doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So keep on doing it. And we share that pleasure with you.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And share the knowledge.
Share the knowledge. We'll do what we can to support you. Until then, we'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.